Okay, we are going to be talking about discipline and boundaries, and this is going to be a little bit different perspective. This will be fun. This should be high energy. And again, I want to say at the outset, I've never been a perfect disciplinarian with my kids. There's been times I've done it right. There's been times I've done it wrong. There's been times I've done it totally calm. There's been times I've done it with anger. So this is not like, oh, Lisa does it perfect. I have made a lot of mistakes, but done certain things right. So we want to learn from the boys' advantage and different things. And we're going to talk about discipline. So one of you guys' favorite phrases, what was that, Addison? What was your favorite phrase?
Right away, all the way, and in a happy way.
And what was the verse I would sing to you guys? Do you
Do
remember
everything without complaining. Do
Wow.
everything
Why are you
without
not
arguing.
singing? Why are you not singing?
Are you kidding me? This is painful
Do
for me.
everything. Okay,
Yeah,
and then,
no, I would
and
never
then
sing
you
it.
might become blameless and pure children
of God. I get
There
it.
we
The
go.
end goal is noble. I get it, but the song was terrible. I had to
Hey, it was
change
like-
the words for my kids
Because you were so
because it hurts.
traumatized.
So what I say is, do everything. No, I don't do that one. It's all the way. Right away, all the way, and in a joyful way.
Joyful way.
Change happy to
I was
joyful.
just going for happy.
Enough of a change where I can feel okay saying it.
When
Just
I
enough.
read that too, when I read right away, all the way, happy way, I heard just yeah. Kind of like our response would be like, oh my gosh,
Again,
and they're just like walking away.
And then there's another phrase, discipline is my friend. Yeah. That was your phrase. Because Alec would get disciplined so much.
That was just one that was made for me.
Yeah.
My parents had to break me like a wild horse.
That was okay. So I know that discipline isn't a one size fits all. Like I remember actually, Addison, you were kind of the first child to teach me that. Actually, before I even had other children, for whatever reason, you had gotten in a habit of lying. You were like afraid of consequences, so you were like
It
lying.
made sense when I was young.
You were lying about things that didn't even matter. We're like, why lie about that? And it was just ridiculous. Like, Addison, did you just walk in the room? No.
I just
What?
wanted to see if I could get away with it.
Everything was a lie. And I remember we had gone to the bank and I had given you a lollipop. And
I remember the SunTrust.
SunTrust.
I remember it.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
said, you can have the lollipop when we get to the next place, but you can't eat it in the car because John has a no food rule in the car.
Right.
And so I went to get you out of the car seat and the lollipop was gone. I mean, you have like a stick in your hand and lollipop all over your face. And I'm like, Addison, did you eat the lollipop? Which I guess I should have said you ate the lollipop.
Probably shouldn't have set me up to fail. Yeah, that's a good lesson for parents.
And you just like started to, I didn't eat it. I didn't. And I remember I took you in my lap and sat you in the front seat of the car. And I just said, hey, this is working. This is not working. So we're going to have to give some mercy here because we had to stop a cycle.
Right.
It had just become this bad cycle. And
Right.
so, I found that you actually did not like to displease us. No. And so it was really hard if I put you in a place where you displeased, whereas you were geared to actually wanting to do it right.
Right.
Now, Austin, on the other hand, was a very different approach as a child. No, but it wasn't a bad, it just was a very different approach.
Sure.
And I would say it this way, like if I saw an outlet, if I told you, no, don't, that will shock you, that will hurt you. You would just want to, like, you wanted it to be clear that you understood what I was saying. You were 2 years old, you'd point at it, and I'd say, and you'd say, and it was, everything was good. That's, If I said to Austin, he would just look right at me and just stick his hand on the outlet, like, did you just tell me no? Because I'm going to have to now touch that.
To this day.
Yeah.
So how did you get Austin to not touch the outlet?
Well, I can't exactly remember the outlet issue.
I
but
remember getting shocked.
Yeah.
I do remember sticking my finger, and I was just like, wow, that was painful. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. To this day, there's actually a exposed outlet today that I saw. I was just like,
Gotta be careful.
safe. But yeah,
Like, and just even for little things, like I remember for you, if I laid your clothes out in the morning, you were happy. You put your clothes on, you're like, I don't have to think about that. You, on the other hand, if I laid your clothes out, you'd be like, no, I don't want to wear this. So I had to just let him pick it. Yeah. So we had to just involve him in the decisions to set him up for a win. You were fine with somebody
It
else.
wasn't a battle worth fighting, too.
It wasn't.
And that's the
Yes.
thing as parents, we have to choose our battles.
Yes. And you were, I was like, the end of the day, he's have his clothes on.
Otherwise, you're going to be
care.
disciplining kids all day.
All day long.
All day.
Crazy.
Every day.
Yes.
And I've learned that as a parent. Like, does this really matter? Do I really need to put boundaries here?
Yeah.
and set my kid up to where he's going to fail or she's going to fail? Or should I choose, like, hey, this is an area where I'm going to really enforce discipline because it's an important area?
Yeah.
Right. And it's different things at different seasons.
Yeah.
So how did you discipline with mom look different than with dad? I know Alec is going to speak to that.
I will totally speak to this, all right? Because I actually happen to watch Moms and Men, and I want to clarify something just really quickly.
Set the record straight.
So my father at this time could bench 315, and
He was a bigger man.
He was a big man, so you could guess that him spanking us would hurt quite a bit. But I'd rather be spanked by him than my mother. So my mom has one eye. She's not very coordinated with the spank spoons. So I would be hit in places that I did not want to be hit.
Okay.
But anyways, I know that's just besides the point.
You guys were only for Alec.
Well, time out. Okay, I got spanked the most. I got spanked the most, so I experienced this the
That
most.
was the reason why he got hit in places, though, that he didn't want to get
Yeah,
hit.
but hold
It wasn't
still.
entirely mom's fault.
Squirm.
Yeah.
You guys,
We would
when you
Alec
get hit there.
hyperventilating
All right, you know what?
from outside.
Moving on.
I would take mom
had to clear
spanking
that.
over dad spanking any day of the
Thank
week.
you.
Absolutely. I remember there was a time where I needed to get disciplined, and mom's like, "You're gonna get spanked," and I kept being like, "Mom, will you please spank me real quick?" Because I knew dad was coming home in any minute. I'm like, let's get this over with. I don't want dad to spank me.
Well, and when we're talking about spanking, because it's a very sensitive
It is a
subject right now.
sensitive
Very
subject.
sensitive.
Because a lot of people have done it wrong.
Yes, a lot of people have done it in anger, and a lot of
tennis
people
rackets
laughing like with Alec. But we used paint stirrers. We would get them from Home Depot. They would sting. They would not bruise. They would not do any damage. They would break before you did any damage. Occasionally a spoon, but sometimes the spoons can get a little hard if you have a child that puts their hands back like this one here. So you have to be a
got
little
one
bit.
eye.
You got to,
Bad coordination.
Depth perception might have been an issue. But yeah, you don't want to discipline in anger. Because first of all, if you discipline in anger, all the child remembers is the anger. They don't even remember what you're trying to teach them.
Yeah.
And
You have to
so,
be patient. Love is patient.
Love
and
is
sometimes
patient.
you want to get in there, take care of it, and get out. But sometimes your kid needs you to sit down with him or her and say, hey, this is what's going on. And Austin, you referenced this in the previous discussion, but the whole idea of taking the time to explain why it's important.
Yeah.
Not just saying, hey, you're in trouble for doing this, but you can say to them, this is why what you did was wrong.
And I think why and timing is important.
Absolutely.
Because I think when the kid is thinking they're going to get a spanking and you're having a discussion with them, all they're thinking is, are you going to spank me?
When are you
Am I
gonna-
going to get
when is this
grounded?
gonna happen?
And you're taking this, they're just thinking of the consequence,
Right.
like,
'Cause the
will I
fear.
still be able to play? So I think it's better to let them know
Timing.
the consequence and then tell them the why.
Tell them the why, and
so
then
that
pray with
they're
them.
not stressed out. Yes,
Yeah.
and then pray with
And
them.
you guys would say to us, you'd be like, hey, you did this, so this is why you're getting this many spankings. But then after the
This is
spanking,
why you're getting
this was
20 spankings.
Yeah, exactly. But afterwards, you guys always made it a point of sitting down and you said, give me a hug. And then you guys would just say, now say I love you or something
Austin
like that.
would say
And
no.
like, which like no
Austin.
matter how much we're like, we don't want to give you a hug, you guys did that because you guys wanted to show like this is
Yeah, we're
not
not mad
us
at you.
being like we want to hit you kind of thing. It's not any of
It
that.
never
was
felt like you guys were
we're
hitting
doing
us.
this out of
Never.
love
Good.
Never.
because
Yeah.
of you guys.
Arden, actually, thank you so much for saying that because that's actually the thing that I love most about it. So Addison already kind of started talking about this, I believe, but right before I got spanked, I would always feel horrible because I did something wrong, but I knew that I wasn't supposed to do that. And I would feel horrible, and then that hug at the end actually made me feel not as much condemned anymore. Sure. So like explaining like, hey, like, I'm doing this because I love you. And, God actually says to bring correction, that this is a good thing. Like this is going to help you in life. And I love you. And this hurts me just as much to spank you, but I have to do this because I love you. And then that hug at the end, it made me not feel condemned anymore. It actually made me feel loved. So,
I remember your dad asking you to spank him one time because he was like, this is just not
true.
working.
The whipping boy scenario.
But no,
I'm gonna become your whipping boy.
And honestly, I know we're making a lot of jokes about spankings, but I'm a huge advocate of spankings. Even though I was spanked the most, I can say that I know that spankings made me who I am today.
I was a huge advocate of allocating spankings. Huge advocate. No.
I think
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I think all of you
I was
boys
gonna
were
say,
advocates of Alec getting
we've
spanked.
seen the outcome of kids who don't get spanked versus
Yeah.
kids who do get spanked.
But now
And,
you
like,
guys
Or kids
didn't
don't get disciplined.
Yeah,
There are other
and
ways
I
to
would say,
discipline your
we
kids.
I shouldn't say
didn't
spanked,
just,
yeah.
didn't-
Discipline.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, but we did discipline you guys
Yeah.
with other
Yeah.
things. There was
There are
there
other
was
ways.
sometimes losses of privileges.
Yeah.
There was sometimes isolation, which like if everybody was watching a movie and Alec was stuck upstairs,
Oh my God, he would just
he would
scream.
scream out. You would just scream the entire time we watched the movie.
Calling child service.
There was a time. There was a time I did scream at some joggers that were going by to call the cops out of my window. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But and then there's the difference too. I think that we need to talk about the difference between discipline and punishment.
Yeah.
As I think like sometimes people can just punish their kids.
Yeah, and there's a
way too
lot of
much,
parents that were only punished that
Right.
don't
Yeah, they
want
don't
to.
know what
They
this
don't want to do any. They don't want to do anything with their kids because they only remember punishment. I was punished. I wasn't disciplined.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think your dad was disciplined, not punished. And so thank God we had one person. But yeah, I would always be a little scared because I had seen things overcharged.
Yeah.
Or I'll be honest with you, I sometimes wanted a spanking instead of all the emotional like 3-hour talk of drama. I would be like, can I just get spanked?
Or
'Cause
the
I just
silent
wanted to go-
treatment, or your
Yes, I got all of that.
Your parents treating
Yep.
you like you're a failure or whatever for an extended period of time.
Yeah, no, and I think, again, that there needs to be consistency,
Yeah.
but I think it can change in different
Can.
seasons.
And you got to be
You know?
sensitive to the Holy Spirit as a parent.
Well, and
'Cause
you've got to say why.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're telling them why you're disciplining them, but you also have to say, why is the child doing this?
Right.
Because, like I know for Alec, school was a rough thing for him. And so I think sometimes of his frustrations during the day got acted out at night. And so, if you're only responding to the what of
Right.
their behavior and not the why behind it, because
good.
I remember, having to say to your dad, listen, I know that this is going on right now, but you need to understand what's going on in the background here. You haven't been around, and this is what's going on, and this is the tension that's going on.
Yeah.
So we need to not handle this as though this is not happening. So I think that you need to find out the why and how important it is to make sure we have time for conversations with our kids so that, we care, that we aren't just assuming there's, you're just doing something bad, but we're actually finding out what's really going on.
And timing's important too. Sometimes as a parent, you just need to send that kid away for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Hey, go play outside for a little bit, whatever it might be, so you can get your head right.
Right.
Because when we're angry, we're connecting ideas and thoughts differently than we do when we're in our sane mind. And so as a parent, you're compromised when you're mad at your child. So just send your child away for a little bit, whatever that looks like in your season of life. Take the time to really think about what's going on, and then talk with them. That way you don't begin a yelling match.
Right. And circling back around to this issue of apologizing as a parent, I'll just say this, and I'm not trying to be dishonoring, but when my parents made mistakes, instead of saying, man, we just yelled at you and we shouldn't have, or we hit you, or whatever it was, they said, I'm sorry, you made me do this. Yes.
This is your fault.
And so you not only were mistreated, but you
Right.
felt guilty about that.
Right, yeah.
And I get it why my parents did that, because they didn't know to do better.
Sure.
They didn't know to do better. And so if you're there and maybe you're saying, oh gosh, I've said that to my kids, you know what? You can apologize.
Yeah,
You can just say, hey, in the past, I've said, I'm sorry, but you made me do this. I'm sorry I overreacted, but this is your fault. You know what? You don't put that on a kid. You don't put that on a kid.
And I think that itself, like what you guys used to do with us, you guys used to apologize, and it made us look at you guys and realize, hey, you guys are learning as well. Like you guys are figuring things out, and it allowed us to extend a lot more grace to you guys.
Thank you.
Where we didn't like blow up about things. We're like, wait, like we're all doing this thing. Like
Yeah.
they're first time parents as well, and this is not something we know much about. And we have grace for them, and they have grace for us.
You'd think that you'd lose respect, but not really. You get grace for it. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
And I remember I had a conversation with you, Mom, on the way to the grocery store or something. We're in the car, and I came to you and I was just like, hey, Mom, have you ever sinned before? Or like, when was the last time you sinned? And I remember just thinking like, I have perfect parents. And you were like, Austin, I sin all the time. And it was so good for me to hear that. And kind of like when you apologize, it tells your kids, hey, I'm a human as well. Yeah. And when they get older, they can look back and be like, my parents are human. Yeah. I can have grace for the way they raised me. I can relate
Have
to
grace
them
for
differently.
other people.
Yeah, and also just like when they're grown, they won't feel as much of a pressure to like, I don't know, figure out their childhood problems because they're like, yeah, I had imperfect parents. Everybody does. Like
there is
they
no
were
such thing.
human.
Right. Yes.
And so I think it takes some of that pressure off even for them. Like, yeah. So
And God makes up that gap. I mean, there's no perfect parents. God makes up the gap. You try to do as much as you can. You honor God's word. You honor the fact of being vulnerable with your kids. You listen to what they're really saying with their behavior. And when you mess up, you say, hey, I'm so sorry. And when they mess up, you make sure that afterwards it isn't ended with the discipline, but you're ended with restoration, where you're hugging them and you're holding them. And then you can tell them the why. So so it doesn't happen again if they actually know the why behind it. And I will say, sometimes I used to say to my kids, because my knee now, because that didn't make any sense. I was like, I don't want to explain it. I'm just saying I said it now. It made just no sense. No, it never did make any sense. Yeah, don't do that. So don't say because I told you so. But what you can say is, that's a really important conversation, but not for right now. I need you just to go to bed. So make sure that you honor it. But, if you're exhausted and you're tired and you can't tackle that conversation, I'm not laying that on you. So I hope this helps you. We do believe in discipline other than spanking. We do.
it is very effective.
Anyway, but being a mom and being smaller, it doesn't go very long into their childhood. So if you're a single mom and stuff, you need to have this consistent pattern where your children know they obey you. So you don't have to be chasing them with a spank spoon because they're just going to laugh at you when they get bigger than you. But so you can just have conversations where they respect you and they follow through. You still do laugh at me. It's great. All right. Hope this blessed you guys.